Тусовки, Adidas кроссовки, три полоски, три полоски, три полоски.
Hello again, my little conscripts, and welcome to another Mordian Glory video. In today's episode, we are going to be looking at some bolt action. And considering how much you guys enjoyed my German army overview, I thought I would do something similar for my Soviet Union forces. Now, my Germans are one of my oldest bolt action armies, but my Soviets are one of my newest. But despite this, I have fallen head over heels in love with them, and I really enjoy playing this army, and it has rapidly expanded. And what you're looking at here is only about 9 months worth of collecting these guys. And so without further ado, let's not mess around. Let's hold the line in the name of Joseph Stalin's mustache and charge right into this thing. Now, before we dive into the units themselves, and don't worry guys, we will be going through all of the nitty-gritty detail. I know that's what you guys are here for, I know what you love. Let me tell you a funny story about my history with collecting the Soviets. You see, earlier I told a little bit of a porky pie, a little bit of a lie. My trousers spontaneously combusted. And that's because technically this Soviet army is the latest one that I've added to my collection. But in reality, Soviets were actually my first ever bolt action army. Back in the crazy, legendary, mythical times of first edition, when bolt action first came out, me and my brother got into it. We had been getting a bit burned out on Warhammer 40k, and my brother said, hey, there's this game that's come out. It's made by the people that used to make 40k. It's made by some old heads from Games Workshop. It's from Warlord Games. And it's called bolt action, and it's like World War II Warhammer. And I was like, well, I like history and I love playing Company of Heroes, so screw it, yeah, I'll get into it. And I got into it with a box of Soviets, and my army was basically just a box of Soviet infantry. But at the time, the rules didn't grab me. I was a poor, misguided child. I was there, fully invested in the ways of 40k. I had not yet seen the light. Forgive me, dear bolt action fans, forgive me. And so I only played a few games with the Soviets, and eventually I ended up selling them on. And so a few years go by where I'm not playing bolt action, I'm no-lifing other games instead. And then my good friend Alex Wargamer, those of you who have watched some of my bolt action battle ports, my old world battle ports, will know Alex. He often plays the Germans in our games, and he often plays Chaos when we're playing old world. He says to me a few years ago, when we were both in 40k, there's this game bolt action. Do you want to try it out? And I was like, oh, well, I've played it before. Well, if you're getting into it, I'll get back into it. But I'm not that bothered. I literally said I'm not that bothered. And now look at me. I've got 5-6 bolt action armies. I'm working on more. Oh my days. But I say, you know what, Alex, I'll get back into it with you. And he starts off with the Brits and I start off with the Japanese. And slowly we get into bolt action and we start building up forces, and it gets its hooks into us, and well, the rest is history. And now you guys know I really found my footing with second edition, really love that. And although, not everyone is a fan of third edition, personally I am a huge fan of third edition. I really like it, and I've expanded my armies massively in the wake of third edition coming out. I've rebought my Germans, goddammit. But there was one army that I didn't have. I had my Germans, I had my Japanese, I had my Brits, I had my Americans, but there was one army I didn't have. The old Soviets. Maybe it was the memories of not really enjoying Soviets in first edition, but I kept being hesitant. I was like, Soviets are the one major I'm not going to get. But fate had other ideas. I was at Element Games, and I was running a Warhammer 40k tournament, and it was going very seamlessly. There was about 24 people there. We were doing everything via like BCP and everything. So the tournament basically ran itself. And I realized that I was going to be sat here for 10.5 hours, not really needing to ref things. People were were absolutely fine with working out the rules and doing it all themselves. It was a pretty experienced tournament. And I realised after half an hour, I'm going to be here for another 10 hours. So I wandered into the Element store, and on the shelf I saw a Winter Soviet Starter Army. I had a good discount on it. And I was like, no, I couldn't possibly. Could I? Well, I did. I went and got that Soviet Starter Army. I got a set of clippers, I got a set of glue, and I spent the next 10 hours, whilst the 40k players were playing their games, I spent the next 10 hours building and just falling in love with the Soviet models. And that was the start of it. And one starter army, we started off with one starter army, and then just a few additions later, almost increasing the armor core by 400%, doubling the amount of special weapons and weapon teams that I've got. And now my Soviet army is pretty much fully fleshed out, and it is one of the armies that I enjoy playing the most. It's one of the armies that I have just enjoyed collecting and building and just getting to grips with. Probably even more so. They rival my Germans, you know. I love my Germans, but I really enjoy playing my Soviets. So with that little story, with that little bit of background information, now let's get to the real reason why you're all here, and let's get into the units. Now, a little bit differently to the way I did my Germans, where I broke people down into weapon types, with my Soviets, I have a very single-minded way of playing them. I like to lean into that post-war narrative. I like to lean into the whole enemy of the gate style thing. And so I actually, if I broke it down by different weapons, I just have one big blob of riflemen and a few SMGs at the side. So I really like the idea of throwing wave after wave of conscripts at the enemy. And so what I typically do when I run this army is I run hordes of inexperienced Soviet rifle squads and back those up with some regulars and with the tanks and with the weapon teams. So I've actually organized this army into the units that I typically run, because unlike my Germans, where I'm constantly mixing and matching and trying out new things, with my Soviets, they scratch a very particular itch. They scratch the need that I have to send waves of infantry forward. So with that in mind, let's start off with the infantry corps, because every day in the corps, it's like a day on the farm. Every meal a banquet, every paycheck a fortune, every formation a parade. I love the corps. In pretty much every Soviet army list that I build, I start off by taking a big platoon of riflemen. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 squads of these guys, and they are always taken as inexperienced. Sometimes I take them as green, sometimes not, but they're always taken as inexperienced, and they just have rifles. Ideally, I would have loved to equip them all with just the Mosin Nagant. But it turns out that with the Soviet weapon sprues, you don't... I know, insane warlord, get on it. You don't get enough Mosin Nagants to give everyone a Mosin. So you'll notice there's a few, I think it's the SVTs in there, the self-loading rifles. We've got a few of those. Now, I was very hesitant to include those when I first started building them, because I always thought they were kind of like high-tech, and you never really saw them being used in games like, I suppose, like Company of Heroes, or in games or in Enemy of the Gates. But I actually went and did a little bit of research. I did a little bit of looking and Googling, and it turns out that they made like 500,000 of them. They made quite a lot of them, and they were actually in fairly widespread use with the Soviet army at the beginning of sort of Operation Barbarossa in 1941. So actually, I didn't mind including them in the end, because I figured whilst the vast majority of my guys are going to have Mosins, there was definitely enough of the more advanced SVTs out there that you would be able to find them not only in guards units, but in pretty much, well, when the Soviets were throwing everything at the wall to try and slow the Germans down, they weren't going to be too picky. Let me know if I've got that right. Like with the German video, I like to say I'm not a history expert, I'm not a historian, so if you've got any information on that, let me know. But for me, I've taken them because I figured, like I said, the Soviets would throw everything at the wall if they could do, and they wouldn't be too picky about what weapons were going where, as long as they had blokes with guns on front lines trying to do their part. So I've got 4 squads of riflemen, mostly armed with SVTs, although we do have, mostly armed with Moses, but we do have a few SVTs there. I've then got 2 units of other infantry. Now, sometimes I like to run these guys as NKVD squads and really lean into that whole enemy at the gates vibe with the blocking units. Not one step backwards, if you retreat, we'll shoot you, that kind of thing. Sometimes it is nice to really play the bad guys, you know, to really lean into the bad guys. But often what I end up doing is running these guys as regulars, as guards. Just as good old-fashioned guards infantry. And they're taken in 10-man squads, and I tend to go for 5 with SMGs, 5 with the PPSHs, and then 5 with the rifles. I tend to run them as regulars, not veterans. That's just kind of the vibe that I go with my Soviets. Very little stuff do I take as veteran, if anything. In total, this gives me 68 line infantry bodies. But I do like to support this mass of infantry with some weapon teams. So we've got, you'll notice that not all of these are 100% finished. I will admit, I do have a little bit of extra work to do here. And a bit like with the Germans, there were a few experiments and some older models in here, which I did with like a different basing scheme. You see some of them are done in the brown, but the one that I ended up settling with is the snowy bases. I really like how those snowy bases came out. But the plan is, you know, anyone that's not got the snow and the tufts done yet, they will get them done. And anyone that's got the brown bases, I'm probably just going to just go over that with the snow. It'll probably take a couple of layers of snow because I reckon some of the brown and the green will show through. But if I just cake enough snow on there, it's particularly deep snowdrift. So we've got 3 sniper teams. So we've got the actual sniper team. This is actually made out of the new Warlord resin. I love the new Warlord resin. I prefer it over metal. I know some people say I'm mad, but I do. I find it much more pleasant material to work with. And then I've got 2 sniper teams that are made out of the lying down guys that you get with the plastic infantry. Now, the thing with these snipers is sometimes I will run them as snipers, and sometimes I need a few extra riflemen. I know, how do I need any more riflemen? But trust me, I do. So often these guys will find themselves being just used as to make an extra big rifle squad if I need that. We've also got 3 anti-tank rifles. I really like using anti-tank rifles with the Soviets, but I'm not going to lie to you. They're not very effective. People will say online, on every forum, from Reddit to anywhere else, that, oh, if you just take enough anti-tank rifles, they could do something. That is a big bag of bollocks. Let me tell you, I've been spamming 3 anti-tank rifles pretty much from the day I got these Soviets. For 9 months, 9 to 12 months, through the end of 2nd edition and the start of 3rd edition. And anti-tank rifles, I don't think I've ever killed a vehicle. I might have killed like 1 Kubelwagen with it. Like, seriously. They are not anti-tank. You take them because they're cool. And occasionally, they will absolutely brain like a veteran infantry. Like if there's some veteran dude running across and you're like, okay, well, I'm struggling to wound him on 5s with my rifles, so I guess I'll try and wound him on 3s with an anti-tank rifle. That's what I tend to find they do the most. But yeah, they very rarely do any damage to tanks, and because they only hit on 4s, they're actually not super reliable at pinning up enemy vehicles either. What I would love to see with anti-tank rifles, and what I think would actually make them genuinely interesting and a genuinely good pick, is if you gave anti-tank rifles the anti-tank rule. This would mean when they're on a fire or ambush order, they would get +1 to hit. Now, if you don't need to I think if you did that, you wouldn't need to change their points or anything. Maybe make them 5 points more expensive, but I don't think you need to change the points. I think if you give the anti-tank rifle the anti-tank rule, they would go from being a bit of a meme choice to actually being something genuinely considered good and powerful. Because at that point, you can reliably stack pins on the enemy. And they become better at pinning up vehicles than slotting infantry. And that, to me, feels like it would sort of make them feel more natural and get them to be better at their intended role. But moving on from that, we have got a couple more Soviet support teams. So again, these guys were done when I was first figuring out how I wanted to like base my Soviets. And so they're done in the mud colour scheme there. We've got a flamethrower team here, and we've got a light mortar team. And then we get to the real support teams. I pretty much always take these. I have got double medium machine gun. Good old Maxim machine gun. I love these things, man. I love them in Company of Heroes, and I love them on the tabletop. I think just for 50 points, 55 points with the gun shield, you can stick them out in the open, and they can just lay down some good fire. And 6 dice is like decent from the medium machine gun. Do you know what I mean? Like, I really do like that. And having a pair of them just on a flank, unless the enemy brings over some tanks, it really can produce enough volume of firepower to lock a side down and to reliably pin enemies up. So I do like these, and I have to say I do like where medium machine guns are right now in 3rd edition in general. They feel like they're a good balance between cost and capability. And then we've got the double medium mortar, and I rarely leave home without my double medium mortar. These are the main source of HE in my army. As you can see, I don't have like many howitzers. I am thinking of getting like some Zis guns and stuff like that. But for now, I have found that my weapon teams are well serviced by pairing up machine guns and medium mortars together. And often I will take my big inexperienced rifle platoon, and then I will take my regular heavy weapons platoon, and then the last bit we get to is the tanks, and that tends to be my 3rd platoon. So speaking of them, let's have a look at the tanks here. Now with my Germans, I like to have a nice eclectic variety. I like to have some Panzer IIIs, some Panzer IVs, chuck a Marder in there, a couple of Tigers. It's all about variety being the spice of life. With my Soviets, it's the complete opposite. There is the T-34. I love the T-34. The T-34 is love. The T-34 is life. When I got my winter Soviet army, it did come with the KV. And I have to say, I'm a big fan of the KV. The mighty KV-1. I love these things, again, in Company of Heroes too. Everyone else would take, loads of T-34s. But I used to take that general that unlocked the KV-1. And having 2 or 3 of these things was always a bit of a headache for the Germans in that game. So I was really happy when I got a KV-1 from my Winter Starch army, but it just didn't quite scratch the itch, And then I did get my BA6. It was the KV-1 first, then it was the BA6, because back in 2nd edition you could only take 1 tank or 1 armoured car. So I was like, well, I want something to balance out the KV, so have a BA. And the BA6 is a resin model. It's a resin model, and it was the 2nd vehicle that I painted up, and it was the 1st vehicle that I applied the snow effects to, hence why they look a little bit blobby. Yeah, the KV and the BA were the 1st vehicles that got snow slapped all over them. But then I got the T-34s, and I feel like the snow effect in the T-34s is a bit better. It's meant to look like, they're all muddy. It's all muddy. That they've been driving through a muddy battlefield, a snowy battlefield. They've churned up the snow, and it started to, to sort of reveal the mud underneath. Now, the T-34s pretty much all came along at the same time. I think I bought 3 of these in 2 weeks and built and painted them all in that time. Yeah, I love the T-34s, man. And honestly, I don't really use my KV and my BA6 that much anymore. Typically, I will run 2 of the T-34s in a normal 1250 point game. But you might be wondering, why do you have the 3rd T-34 then? If you only ever run 2, because you can squeeze 3 in, but it does start, you have to cut corners elsewhere, especially with them being the T-34-85 variant. If they were T-34-76s, then yeah, absolutely, you could fit 3 in no problems whatsoever. But with them being the T-34-85, it's like taking 3 Panzer IVs. It can be pricey, So having the reason I got the 3rd one is because what I typically use my Soviets for these days, I don't play a lot of 12, 50-point games with them. I play a lot of historical battles with them. I want to do a big shout out to the Element games like Bolt Action Crew, because they have been organizing some big historical games. Last one we did was the Battle of Minsk, and I was on the Soviet team. And this time, I did do a video about that as well. It was really cool. It's like an apocalypse size, but I actually gave like 10,000 points on the Russian side and about 5,000, 6,000 points on the German side. And now, at time of recording, there's another one that I'm going to be going to, which is going to be the Battle of Berlin. Battle of Berlin. And it's in these bigger games that what I tend to do is take all 5 of these tanks. And I needed that. I needed it, guys. I needed it. That's what I said to Mrs. Mordian. I needed it. I needed that third T-3485. I found that just having 2 wasn't enough at that scale of game. And so what I tend to do is when I'm running like a normal 1250 point game, I'll take like a pair of T-3485s. That's enough to see me through. But when we're going for those big games, I bring all of the armor out and I bring all of the infantry as well. Now, the last part of this army is the officers and the characters and all that kind of good stuff. So we've got 5 regular officers here. So we've got one chap with the iconic pose, that very famous photograph from World War II. So we've got the officer there with his pistol and his SMG. We've got another officer with an SMG. A couple more officers SMGs. These 3 are metal. This one is plastic. This one is I made him from the infantry kit. And then this is the winter officer from the Soviet Winter Starter Army. And then we've also got a couple of commissars. Again, I've got a proper commissar model in metal, and then I've got one that I made from the plastic kit. We've got, now this guy's like, he's meant to be sort of like a radio operator of some kind. I often use him as a forward observer, like an artillery observer or an air observer. And then we've got a couple of medics. We've got the female medic model, and we've got the paired medic model here with the 2 blokes there. So I've got a pair of medics. I have to say, I rarely take medics with my Soviets. I tend to find that the inexperienced infantry is almost not worth saving them. I like taking medics with veterans. I've done that with my Germans, and I found it to be very, very effective because the medic only needs to save like 2 people to get the points back. But we've got a nice variety of officers here and characters so that I can run a little bit of anything that I want. If I want a couple of big rifle platoons of commissars, I can do that. If I want to run some medics or some air observers, I can do that. And I've got plenty of officers for all the different platoons that I might want. And I can even use this guy as a company commander and use these ones as various platoon commanders. Well, that just about covers all of the models that I've got and the past behind them. But I suppose there is a question. What is next for this army? Well, in truth, I'm pretty happy with where the Soviets are. Unlike my Germans, where there's a few more iconic tanks, like I want to get those Luxes, I want to get more transports like Hanemags for them, repaint a whole bunch of stuff. For my Soviets, it's not the same. Because I like playing them in quite a specific way, I like to lean into that hordes of infantry and waves of T-34s sort of post-war narrative. I've kind of achieved that. I suppose immediate next steps would be to finish off some of the models that haven't got their basing 100% right yet. These guys need the snow, these guys need redoing. And also, I do have, as crazy as it sounds, I do have another box of Soviet Winter Infantry. I've opened them and I've not built any of them yet. The reason I got that, despite the fact I have so many infantry, is because I do want to build up some of the other weapon options. So I've got no light machine guns here, for example. And I would quite like to be able to run a couple more conscript mobs for when I'm playing those big apocalypse games. So what I would probably like to do is build some of the riflemen build some of them as riflemen so I can have these as more 12-man squads. I mean, I suppose if I work this out now, if I needed 2 more 12-man squads, that would be 24 of the models. And then if I needed to convert these over to 12-man squads, I'd need 12-man rifle squads. I'd need another 7 riflemen, because I'd need to do 6 and then 1 more here. So that would be another 14. So 24 plus 14, 38. And then I'd have 4. Then I'd have 8 rifle squads, which would allow me to run maximum 2 rifle platoons. I mean, that would take up 38 of them. Maybe I'll do that. I think realistically, more likely what's going to happen is I'm going to be building more like guys with the light machine guns. I'd like to be able to run a few machine gun sections just to try them out. And I'd like a few more PPSH guys. You know, I would like to be able to... maybe, you know, I'd like to just equip a few models so that if I do want to go down a more veteran route, maybe go for some tank riders or something like that with like SMGs and whatnot, I think that's probably what I'd end up doing them. So, yeah, maybe a few more riflemen, but more than likely probably going to be going for more machine gun stuff. But you guys let me know what you think I should do. Should I go for those maximum rifle squads? And then maybe buy more Soviet infantry to then do the weapon options? Let me know. Let me know. The other thing that I think is missing from the army is I would like a couple of Zis's. I think the Zis gun, it was an iconic unit. It was an iconic thing in the war, the Zis. They made loads of them. And it's quite cool that it can be like a medium anti-tank gun and a light howitzer. I like that in my British 25 pounder. Rather than having like the medium mortars and like maybe the machine guns, maybe trading those in for a couple of Zis's would be kind of cool. Just gives me some artillery. I don't have much artillery in the list. And also, the list hasn't got any transports in it. It doesn't have any way of transporting the guys. They've always got to foot slog around. So perhaps some transports, maybe some Soviet half-tracks or some scout cars or something. Maybe. That last one I'm not totally bothered about. I may end up with a couple of Bren carriers for them. As count size, is it what, T20s? I may end up with a couple of Bren carriers because I'm thinking for my Brits, which I'll probably do the next army overview for the Brits. I'm thinking what my Brits need is an extra 8th army box set. And then I've already got like 3 Brens for my Brits, so I could bring 2 of them over here and have them as Lend-Lease. But at the moment, the army is pure Soviet, so maybe I'll Lend-Lease things in, maybe I won't. But long story short, the only thing that I'm definitely going to be getting, definitely going to be building is some more infantry. And then probably the Zis guns. And maybe after that some transports, but I'm not feeling the burning desire to have them. Maybe. Hey you. That's a good boy. What do you think, mate? Do we need more transports? He would probably say no, because he doesn't like going in the car. He doesn't like the car all that much. All right. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What are your thoughts on the force as it currently stands? And what do you think needs adding to it to just flesh it out, make it feel right to finish it off? If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to go ahead and smash that like button and also subscribe to never miss an episode. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian glory hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing. Truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full time without the incredible and generous support of my members. So thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Alex Dengal, Bon Vert, Lord Pryor, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, Try Again Bragg, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, and August Barney. Seriously, guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video. And of course, as always, I'll see you guys next time.